But if you want to be successful, you really need to learn how to use AI, because I think you will end up getting left behind if you cannot operate AI for your own uses in business. But to resist it, I think ends up leaving other people the ability to bypass you.
You've scanned the headlines, read the articles, and liked the posts. Now listen to the experts themselves in the Future of Work podcast, presented by allwork.space. Today, we welcome Angela Hood, CEO and founder of ThisWay Global Inc, a company that converges technology with talent networks to unlock human potential. One of the fastest growing SaaS automation companies in the world, Hood is a well-respected thought leader and international keynote speaker on the topics of mitigating bias using artificial intelligence, the ROI of diversity, and human-centric automation.
Angela, welcome to the Future of Work podcast. It's wonderful to have you with us, and I'm really excited for two reasons. First, I know how much you know, or I know how much you do, the amazing things that you've been working on with Watson X over at IBM and the amazing research and development you did while you were in Cambridge. To start off, tell us just a little bit as we think about the future of work, as we think about everything we're going to talk about here, hybrid work, remote work, all the new ways that people are doing things. What do you think is the most important single element of bringing new people into the future of work? From a company point of view, you help companies to find team members, things of that nature. What do you think is the most important thing?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I love the fact that you invited me to be here. It was great to see you today. I would say the most important thing is something that a lot of companies try to do, but I don't know how effective they are at it. It's having a very clear vision, mission, and core values that they can hire people around. I think people today really need to know who they're working for and what their work every single day is going to drive forward in the world. They care about that part. And humans are the number one most important thing that we have in our businesses.
Well, they are. And I know ThisWay Global, and its ties to IBM and Watson X, and really its ties to Alliance Virtual too. I mean, you're dealing with the largest human resources companies globally,
Yeah.
and I will say thousands of corporate clients hiring millions upon millions of people. And you say that's the most important thing. How are they fighting that out? How does one company differentiate itself in the battle for talent from another, whether that company's large or small? And what's the role that AI is playing in that to, I won't say balance or level the playing field, but to help those companies really make those best decisions?
A lot of the workforce, especially the workforce that people are really going after, top talent, they know that technology will give them the ability to do a better job, that they will be more successful, that will hit their goals, and they'll also have a better work-life balance, meaning they can have automation and AI do some work for them when they're on a vacation, when they're at home with their family having dinner, when they're watching a kid's soccer game on a Saturday. And if you do not enable your team, whether they be existing or new employees, with technology that really helps them have a better life, and that's work life and home life, then you're really not going to be able to get the top talent, because that's what successful companies are doing, and that's what they offer to new employees.
Well, we have a little process in our company.
Okay.
We call it statement, fact, story. Okay, now you just made some bold statements.
Yep.
Everything will be better if we just do this.
Yep.
Give me some facts, give me some data behind that, and then illustrate that with a company or an example that's making it work.
Great. I
Sorry
was
if I put you on the spot. I
No, it's
didn't
fine.
do
I'm
that.
used to it all the time, especially from you, Frank. It's good. I was at a really great event. IBM's has a partnership with TD Synnex, which is our VAD, a value added distributor. Okay. And we were at an event in Scottsdale called Red, White, and You. It was public sector primarily, and it was huge organizations and state government and federal government and all of these defense contractors and everything. And they were having a competition, which I loved. I thought it was great. It was a competition on who's going to submit the best RFI. And there was a team sitting at my table that morning, and they were competing. And the guy across the table from me, he says, "Are you the AI lady?" I was like, "Sure." I go,
Yes, and I've been deep faked.
"That's right." Yeah. I said, "Sure." He goes, "All right, I have a question for you." He goes, "We have this big submission that we have coming up in a few hours. We want to have a website. We want to have verbiage. We want to have language. We need images. We need all these things." He goes, "If you think AI is so awesome, how could you have AI help me?" I said, "Okay, let me ask you some questions." So on my phone, I sat there and asked him questions. He answered about 20 questions for me. I typed in stuff. I hit send basically on three different platforms that we use on a regular basis. One of them being Granite, that's part of IBM. And I hit send. I got information back. I sent that to him. They used that to create an entire website. They ended up winning the competition. And when I asked him afterwards, I saw him at like a happy hour thing later that day. He said, "Because my mind is blown." He said, "You on your phone in 10 minutes did what we were thinking we would need 2 or 3 weeks to do, and we had 3 or 4 hours to do." That to me is an example of when you know how to use technology in the right way and you knew which item or which piece of tech to use in the right place, you can do magic. I mean, it feels like magic.
Well, but magic's cool if you're the only one that's got it.
Yeah.
As soon
Yeah.
as everybody's got magic, is it really magic
Yeah.
anymore? Or is it just a new tool we are all using? I mean, I am old. I am close to Methuselah's age, and who is really old. And I started doing accounting with a hand managed calculator,
Yep.
not an electronic calculator, but you pulled a lever on it. Okay. Um, and then, we evolved from that, and spreadsheets. Well, pretty soon everybody had spreadsheets. And
Mhm.
so, do you think and we're kind of veering off the HR side of this a little bit directly into AI, but do you think that once everybody has AI and it becomes ubiquitous in the way we use it and everything, we will all be more productive, of course?
Mhm.
Will it still give you the same competitive advantage you're trying to have to use it today, honestly, to get to an elevated position amongst your competitors?
So by the time I was in engineering school, we were using calculators. They were TI and Texas
Oh,
Instruments
sure. I remember
calculators.
those. Those are great.
There were people in my class that could use their TI calculator better than I could, right? Like they were whizzes, they were masterminds. Where did I benefit? I could explain to a customer what we were going to do as engineers, how it was going to benefit them. But I wasn't wielding the calculator as fast as they were, or even as good as they were. We have differentiation as humans. We're going to continue to have that with the use of AI. Some people are going to adopt it and be powerhouses at it. Some are going to struggle a little bit. But I think that if you want to be successful, and if you are going to be in your career for more than 5 years, you really need to learn how to use AI because I think you will end up getting left behind if you cannot operate AI for your own uses in business. And you need to find out what you're good at. Are you good at using a specific platform? Are you good at using it to create better documents? But to resist it, I think ends up leaving other people the ability to bypass you.
Well, I would agree that with all technology or all
Right.
business, we'll say all business tools,
Yep.
whether it's technology or not. I think that's true. I guess what I'm asking your opinion on is as we address AI in the context of human resources.
Yeah.
Um, and when we talk about remote work and hybrid work and all these sorts of things, how is AI going to impact the way we hire and then build teams? Will we look for certain AI specialists or generalists? Will we use AI only as a tool to make a selection, or is it the selection based upon the AI capabilities of the candidate? And when we look at remote work, I'm asking 20 questions here, I'm sorry. When we look at remote work and hybrid work, will AI accelerate that, or will these teams need to be working more closely together in person in a back to the office environment? How do you see
Yeah.
this all coming together?
So the remote question is a question that is, I would say, top of mind for every candidate and every company because knowledge workers, so people that use technology on a regular basis every single day, they have the flexibility to be able to use that technology in a home office, in a virtual office if they want. The capacity, though, to innovate, we know is better when people are in a room. It doesn't mean they have to be in a room all day, every day, but when they can get together at moments in time and all double down and stay super focused on a particular problem they want to solve, we know that those solutions happen faster and they happen because of a greater diversity of thought as well. So there's a few components there that are all about humans. So I think first and foremost, we have to recognize a lot of people that are knowledge workers want a virtual or remote office. They do not want to have to come
Good.
into an office. Okay. So that's just the way that is. I don't see that changing. And so it's up to businesses to figure out how do they manage that. And this is a big one, and be transparent with their workforce and the candidates that are coming into their company and tell them what the policy is and try to help them understand why, but be transparent. Don't say it's one thing and then change it on them. So that's that part.
Completely agree. That holds true of every representation, either a candidate or an
That's
employer
right.
makes. What we always say is that um, you have to make sure that you don't try and lie to your mother, because
Right.
you,
It won't
you
work.
can never ever lie to your mother. She always catches you, no
That's
matter
right.
what you do. If you try and tell a fib, if you try and fake it, your mother catches you. So we
Right.
say the client is as smart as your mother.
Yes.
Don't do anything that
That's right.
that gets out of bounds. And I think an employer has to think that way about the candidate,
You
and
do.
vice versa.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, just, and here's the thing, it's kind of like dating in a little bit. It's just better to be who you are and you're going to find the right person. If you try to fake it, you're going to not find the right person. You're going to wonder why you're unhappy.
uh,
It's
uh,
very similar to an employee candidate type engagement.
well, it's funny because uh, a lot of times you hear people talk about, oh, there's this dream job I want.
Right.
But you rarely hear people say, oh, there's this perfect company I'm looking for.
True.
And really, the company that has a good job, if it's the perfect company, is much better than the dream job at a crud company.
That's right. Yeah.
And so I think people's expectations or the way they frame their own goals around seeking a position has a lot to do with it overall, and
Yeah.
things we need to consider on such.
There's
Well,
a component of that too, though, that I think part of the problem is companies don't know how to talk about themselves very well. So they just say blah, 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 blah. It's like marketing speak. They don't say, this is why we exist in the world, and this is where we are passionately driven. And you are going to help us achieve whatever it is by you using your powers that you have, your skills that you have. Like they just don't make that connection. And that's why I think we hear this is a dream job and not the dream company.
it's funny too. Um, let's take really the biggest companies in the world. Many of them use a third party HR company and service
Yeah.
to find and interview candidates.
hmm
And we could name some of those companies. They're huge, they're massive, and they don't work on hiring 100,000 people a year. They work on hiring, 100 million.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't think most people understand that, and I'll make this up as I'm going along. I'll say a company like Cisco with 400,000 team members needs to hire 100,000 team members a year.
That's right.
Okay, and they don't have an HR department that can do that. They can't do the interview.
Right.
Every position requires 5 interviews, and every interview takes 45 minutes. And there's a whole process
Yeah.
here overall. So to your point, the company doesn't know who it is, and yet it hires an agent
Hmm.
interview and present itself to prospective candidates
Right.
in its own place. And I'm kind of goofy, but I've never known anybody that could explain me better than me.
Right.
And if I'm a company, I don't know anybody that can explain our company better than us. But yet, so many large companies are doing this, and that has to be from the satisfaction from the employee point of view. I don't think that the people doing the interviews, how do they know how to express this? How do they do that? And how do they even choose to? I know you have a whole AI process that helps them select people to even go
Right.
to the interviews, and I think you should delve into that because that's critically important. But how do they even know how to speak to these people?
Right. So, I mean, we work with a lot of RPOs, so
Excuse me, we
recruitment
don't use the
process.
words "we work" here.
What?
We don't use "we work" here.
No, I know
Bad joke.
that. We work with a lot of recruitment process outsourcing RPOs. And these are the people that you just described, right? They work for the largest companies in the world. They actually sit inside those companies, and they have email addresses that are from that company. They understand the company pretty well. Sometimes I think they understand them better than the company themselves does, because they have a view that's a little bit different. They have the candidate view and they have the employer view, and they're kind of sitting in the middle and they see both sides. In particular, the way our AI helps them is we go through and analyze all the jobs that that company has open, and we analyze the available talent in the market where that job sits.
Okay, stop there.
Okay.
How do you find that talent in the market
Yeah.
to analyze?
So we have 8,500 partners that are around the globe. These are partners, they could be the US military, so the hiring offices on the bases,
Hmm.
not just in the US, but abroad. We have organizations that are with unions, alumni organizations out of universities, technical colleges. Yeah, that's why there's so many different ones, right? 8,500. There's people that are members of these organizations, and these people are like, I'm this person, I look like this, I want this kind of work, I'm looking to do this based off my certifications. Also, I'm not looking to do certain things. This is in particular with the military. So I know that you're a veteran, and a lot of veterans have experienced something in their military life that they don't really want to do that work anymore. Maybe they drove and they drove in Fallujah. They don't want to drive anymore as a profession. And so they say, I want to do this kind of work, but I don't want to do this other kind of work. That is equally as important. So when we're bringing in talent into our system, we say, tell us what you do want to do, tell us what you don't want to do, give us your background, put your best foot forward, and they tell us who they are. We match them to jobs.
Well, just stop that there, 'cause
Yeah.
I wanna make sure that you clarify that you're not a job board like an
No,
Indeed or
no,
something
definitely
like
not.
that.
No,
This is raw talent that
that's right.
you're pulling out of different sources as opposed to people that are saying, "I want a job as a X," on
That's
a
right.
job like Indeed. Nothing against Indeed, they do a great service.
Right.
But what you do is very different. You find people that aren't necessarily looking for
Yeah, and we consider them passive. It means that they didn't actively apply for the job. The job gets sent to them and says, look, this job's live. This is with an employer that we can tell you is a strong employer, because we're selective about who we work with.
right.
We have thousands of companies that have passed that test, but not every company would. And we then say, okay, here's the job that we think is matched to you. And it's really interesting because the AI understands correlations that we as people would not pick up on. So I'm going to give you an example. A person that has a master's in library science A lot of them got laid off, or they were told, we don't, we're not going to keep the library open anymore. So you don't really have a job to do during COVID. And so there they were, like incredibly intelligent people,
Mhm.
not a great job to have. And we found that they're really good on data science teams. Now, my team didn't realize that. I did not know that. The data scientist team didn't know it. The library science person didn't know it. None of us knew it. The AI figured it out and said, this is why. They are really good with understanding the Dewey Decimal System, which is really compatible with building schemas, which data scientists need to do.
Yep, that would make sense.
It's a way of thinking, right? It's like an applicable way of thinking. The extra bonus here is that more job security and 300% more in salary than they were making in a library science type job.
Boy, I
Now,
want that job. Whatever 300% more
you
is,
want
I
that
want
one? Yeah.
that.
It's just so those are the things where technology can really help us. It can remove blinders we have because it's looking at so many data points that it makes relationships that we may be overlooking. We see this a lot in the type of sales roles that people take. We've discovered that a lot of times people that are really good in customer success come out of high end hospitality roles.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, I would absolutely agree with that. Within our industry, within the flexible workspace industry and the co-working business center sectors, et cetera, hospitality hires, if you will, for decades
right.
have been excellent because people equate when you use the term workspace or anything to do with office, they think of physical real estate. But the reality is that our sector, the co-working and business center sector, has always been a service industry first. And we used to joke, to the hospitality people, you change the sheets in the morning and when they arrive in our office to make the photocopies. It's the same customer
Yeah,
that needs the same thing, and they want everything on demand.
that's right. Yeah.
As a result of which the service element is critical, much more so than the facility in many cases.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because yeah, think about it. Will you go to a local diner that knows your name and knows what you like to order and prepares it just right versus the biggest brand chain in town?
Right.
Absolutely. Now, is the diner maybe as nice? Maybe not. Same with a hotel. If they know your name and they really pay to it. I think of the old TV show Cheers. What was the thing they say? Well, it's the place where they know your name.
Right. Yeah.
That's what made the culture there. Everybody came in and said, "Hi, so and so and so." It's like that was
Norm.
the culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that is really important. Um, another thing, when you talk about AI, you're removing some human elements.
Hmm.
Humans have biases.
Oh, so much.
We all have biases,
Yeah.
good, bad, and sometimes ugly, sadly. Um, but how does AI work with that? Does the company build their biases in, or does AI strip it out, or is there a balance, or is it just AI doing its job? And how does that work?
Yeah. So 2 points I always like to start this conversation with, because this is my passion in the world, is bias is not the same thing as discrimination. And I think people need to understand
Agreed.
that.
Agreed.
Bias is a survival mechanism that we have developed as humans over the entire existence of our people, right? It doesn't matter how long ago we saw a saber-toothed tiger eat one of our buddies, and we're like, right, saber-toothed tigers, I don't like them.
Yeah, I don't like rattlesnakes. I'm from Texas.
There,
I do not
there you
like
go.
rattlesnakes.
I agree with you completely. Uh, and second, the smarter you are, typically the more biased you are. And this is why. When you're really smart and you're successful, a lot of times it's because you have figured out shortcuts. And you use these shortcuts to make decisions faster, to make better decisions, to make decisions that are aligned with your company or your person. Works beautifully when you're picking your life mate, where you want to go on vacation, the next restaurant you want to go eat at. All of those biases, great. Embrace them.
Mhm.
It's illegal and also unethical to have that affect people being able to put a roof over their head or food on their table.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of regulation around it, and it's bad ethics. So now what do you do about it, right? You cannot get rid of it. It's survival mechanism. You can train people to have more awareness that it exists and try to help them accept that they have biases, but still that doesn't work. It's proven that it doesn't work very well. So what we did was our tech removes the information that causes the bias. So name, ethnicity, what university you went to, maybe your socioeconomic level is indicated by the postcode that you put on your zip code that you put on your resume.
All those things, well, certainly university, but things like postcodes and stuff. I know going back, I was at Deloitte for a while, and I know we looked at candidates. We looked up all sorts of things
Yes,
to see what we could learn about the Final Four, so to speak.
that's right. Yeah.
And those things were things that we actually unintentionally probably biased part of our opinion.
Right. Well, and that's what I'm saying is most people are not bad people, and most people are not doing things out of malice. They're doing it because they think that they're using the shortcuts that have made them successful. They're applying those same shortcuts. And now they're causing unintended things to happen and they don't realize that. There's 188 biases essentially that we as humans bring to every interaction, and it can be around uh, you have glasses, you don't have glasses, you have the same name as you have the same name as a ex-husband or ex-wife, so I don't like the name. I mean, it just goes on and on. And so how do you do that? So we built a system that strips out all of we call it the fluff, right? It's the biases, but leaves the information that is contextualized, that's factual, that is relevant. And then we match that to the company and the job description. So it's not just, a sales job in a startup and a sales job in a Fortune 100 is a very different sales job.
Correct.
So it's not just enough to say, we're matching you to a sales job. We're matching you to this job at this location for this type of a company in an industry that you're happy to be in. Some people don't want to work in certain industries. So that's where the matching happens. Then and only then do we do a ranking. But the ranking is in buckets. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is your top group. It's kind of like gold medalist, silver medalist, bronze. Some companies say we want to look at everyone. We want to look at everyone that's gold, silver, bronze. We only don't want to look at people that do not meet the qualifications, right? We require that they've been to medical school and they haven't been to medical school, right? There's no way this person can do this job. Okay, that's who gets moved out of the list. But the great thing is our technology takes those people and then says, is there any other opportunity that that person is qualified for that maybe they haven't seen, maybe they don't know about? And by doing that, we increase the volume of qualified candidates for any company by 38%. And all of this is happening with technology and it's happening without bias. And then the candidates are handed over to recruiters. And the reason why we know it's powerful is we will be on a call with a recruiter and they will say things like, I had no idea how many people I was overlooking. Or I had no idea that we actually had really diverse talent in our industry, in our market that I'd never met before. I thought I knew everyone that did X job. So we are opening eyes and we're opening opportunities by using AI in a very effective way.
Well, it's funny. If you were to ask me, I would say I just want people with an IQ over 165 that haven't been in prison and aren't under therapy.
Wow. Okay. That's
Everybody
it.
else is everybody that's got that IQ and hasn't had those two problems. I want to talk to
Right. All
them
right.
because you can't beat smart. Uh, it
Yeah.
it just comes to that. Um, it is funny how when you think about it. I'm gonna kind of wander down a rabbit hole here. AI, it helps. It's me only better when I use AI. That's the way I look at it.
Okay.
Um, I'm able to do everything I do, but I'm able to do it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Um, Faster is good, but better is what you really want to achieve overall. That means that my productivity return on investment of time or money is
Mhm.
hopefully going to be higher. I'm going to be able
Right.
to produce more goods and services. AI is a younger generational thing. 65, 70-year-olds aren't jumping into AI at the same speed as Gen Z is. Now, here's the dilemma. Let's take Japan. Japan has an aging workforce and an aging population that is not being replaced. Basically, it is a shrinking population and ultimately a shrinking economy as a result of it. It's already begun to shrink. Will AI used in the workplace,
Mhm.
starting with the selection process, which you guys kind of control on a global basis.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think people realize how huge you all are. Um, um, is that a solution to global depopulation to keep productivity up so that younger generations can help support the load of older generations?
So it has been discussed a lot. It's also been discussed this idea of if the work is being accomplished by technology, should there be just like a flat salary that everyone is provided, right? These are
Oh, yeah,
social
yeah.
questions that are, I think, premature. And the reason why I say that is because I'm watching how technology is being adopted and at the rate that it's being adopted. Right now, there's a lot of people using it that are kind of, I'm going to say, using it like parlor tricks. Oh, look what I did with it, or
Yeah,
look
yeah,
what I
I
can do.
agree. I agree.
They're not using it to actually yield true benefit for them or their companies. So I think right now what we're seeing is there's about 6% that are using it in a way that is leading to meaningful interactions in their company, whether they're using a chat bot, whether they're using, it for a hiring perspective. There's still all this capacity though that is still being done by humans. And part of the thing that you mentioned about the age, I learned when I was at Cambridge that we as people act a different age, and it has nothing to do with the number of days that we've been on the earth. So there's people that are 70 that act like they're 20, and there's people that 20 that act like they're 70. So I don't think it's around necessarily the how long you've been on the planet. I think it's about your mindset. I think people that have an adaptive, agile, curious mindset will always be relevant. I think where we get
Apply experience to that curiosity.
yeah. Yeah,
And that's not unique, but that is an advantage they have. I think it's Henry
absolutely.
Ford who, when he was still president of Ford Senior, Ford Motor Company was 80 years old or so, or still CEO. And somebody asked him seriously, "Well, don't you think you're a little old for this?" And his comment I've always remembered was, "Well, you're only old when you stop learning."
Yeah,
And I hope that for you and for me and for everyone that's listening, that we never ever stop learning and therefore we
right,
never ever grow old. We just
right.
experience and can apply that to new things.
Yeah, and
Um,
I think that's the difference is a person that has that mindset that you just described, they're going to be they will be part of this evolution. They will be part of the transformation that's happening. This people compare AI sometimes to the internet. It's
Mhm.
really much more like the invention of electricity. It will be behind everything eventually. It will be a component, right? It's not going to be driving it, just like electricity is only part of any type of thing that we're using. The computer I'm sitting here using, it has electricity going to it.
Yeah.
Incredibly powerful. I have to have it. but there's all kinds of things in there, silicon chips and everything else that actually make it work.
Well, I know I agree. In our own company's technology stack, we look at our processes as being the core to how the stack is built.
Yep.
And right now, I would say 25 to 30% of all of our processes now are AI driven or AI enabled. And I would say more AI enabled
Yep.
than driven. It's not pure AI, it's AI is assisting the process rather than being the foundation of
Right.
the process. And that's the adaptation I think you're seeing overall. The electricity started out with light bulbs.
That's right.
That's when the adoption happened, and then it maybe moved to refrigerators, and then air conditioners came along, and then everybody learned how to use this tool. And I do think the internet's the same way. To me, the internet is data,
Yeah.
and when you think of all the information that you're farming using AI,
Yeah.
guess where it lives? It lives in the internet.
That's
It
right.
lives in that massive data bank, if you will, overall. So I see them all connected. I do think that whether it's Internet of Things or AI of Things or electrical power of things, that we are on the cusp, the very cusp of the next generational leap forward.
Yes.
One hand. On the other hand, we're also on the cusp for the first time in history of population reduction across the
Right.
planet.
Yeah.
So those things, is that coincidental? Is
Right.
that,
Yeah.
are
That's a
they
great question.
serendipitous? Is it just, yeah, that's the way it worked out? Um, so this will be interesting to see the role and the dependence on AI we create as our workforce ultimately shrinks.
Yeah. So I think the other part too about AI is we need to make sure that we're using it in ways that I would say cause us to have more connection, not less, with one another. And we should be able to do that because I think personally, we got into, in particular in the US, we got into a place where we were working so much that we didn't really go out and like meet each other, and we didn't go out and have big gatherings like we used to. And we started seeing smaller and smaller gatherings. And then COVID happened.
Yeah.
Everyone went into this huge isolation mode, and I think we have struggled to come out of it. And that's the thing that I see as a possible positive is the fact that if we can have AI and automation help us get the things we need to get done that are have to happen, but they're not fun and we don't enjoy them and they don't add joy to our life. If we can have it do that, where we then have more time to get together and spend time with friends and family and your neighbors and go on a walk and go on a hike and all those things. That's how it should be used in my mind. And some people are better at using it like that than others.
Well, I will say that's a very Western culture viewpoint, by
Yeah,
the way.
it is.
I'm gonna not name any countries, but I'm gonna take on an Eastern culture
Yep,
viewpoint and say, aha, I can get ahead of that Western culture
that's
who's
right.
going to be
Yep,
taking a 3 day. We're doing a 3 day work week because we're still going to do a 7 day work
that's right.
week or a
Yeah,
six
that's
day
right.
work.
Yep,
So as long as cultures are competing for market share
right.
of everything, how do you think that we'll find that balance, especially when we're hiring across borders, which means across cultures, because technology doesn't recognize borders.
Right.
And I know our own company is spread across several borders. Yours is spread across probably 194 borders.
A lot of borders. Yeah.
We're only 54. But what difference it makes as you go forward on all of these things. And coming back to our first question, how do you hire to the culture of a company using AI that crosses multiple borders and have that same company in all those
Mhm.
various places have the same ambition and goal? Or is that just that? Ain't going to happen. Don't worry about it.
I know, I think it should happen. I think you have to work hard for it to happen. But we were talking a minute ago about curiosity and experience and intellect, right? So
Right.
those things still need to exist in order for you to work for our company or for your company. It doesn't matter where you're from, those things still have to exist. And there's a lot of scientific proof. This is not me. This is scientific proof that says you have to have some downtime. Your brain needs to have some fun.
Sure.
It needs to breathe some oxygen. It needs to go, it needs to exercise. It needs to do all these things in order for you to be able to solve problems. Companies accelerate and differentiate themselves because they solve problems. And they don't do it as a company, they do it as the people inside the company. They're the ones that solve
Correct.
the problems.
Correct.
Those people still need moments to spend doing joyful things. That's why we think better than others. You get endorphins, it causes you to be able to solve problems, you get rest. We all know that we need sleep in order for our brains and our bodies to rejuvenate. So I think that if we can get this balance right, we don't have to work harder or longer hours. We have to work smarter. That is the magic. And I don't know that there's enough guidance given to companies. It's one thing that we get asked a lot from our customers is to say, can you give us more guidance about how to adopt technology in the right order in the right places with the right people in our company? And that's the part that the world still needs to figure out how to do effectively.
That is a big challenge.
It is.
That is a big challenge. I think you're right. Technology, we there's always been a technology from
Right. Yeah.
the first flint
That's right.
shaped stone axe. That was a breakthrough technology, um, uh, thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of years ago. Um, Today's technology is just a different type of axe in many respects. It's just the next thing that we're going to use. And it's funny, you talk about balance. When I was, I guess, at the end of my college years and that sort of thing, I was talking to my dad, who was, kind of an old rancher type guy, and that sort of thing. And we were talking about me going out into the world and business, and he said, just remember, that life is kind of like in the old caveman days, that you got to go out and kill a few mastodons and bring home some berries and that sort of thing. He said, but life is sitting around the fire, putting art on the wall and singing songs.
Yeah. That's right.
That has always stuck with me, and I've always remembered it and kept trying to keep that balance in my life. And I don't think the fact that I have not worked as many hours as somebody or somebody else has ever held me back.
Right. Yeah, of
Uh,
course
I,
not.
I do believe you need that creative time, just thought time. And to me, it was always best looking at water, whether it's the ocean or a lake or river. If I can sit and stare at the movement of water, I can personally get into my zone and think of nothing and everything at the same time.
Right, and none of that has anything to do with AI. And that's my point is if you can let your automation and AI be doing the things that are really boring and don't satisfy you, but still have to get done. Like that report still has to get done. Those calculations still need to happen.
Yeah.
All of those things. If you can let technology do that and free you up to go spend more time staring at the water, whatever it is that, some people love running. I can't imagine running is not my happy place, right? But some people love that. And if that's what it is, then go do that. Let technology help you spend more time finding joy. It's, I think it's unfortunate that companies don't think about it like that all the time for their employees. They think about it like, the ROI of this technology is going to be X, Y,
Yeah. Yeah.
but really Z is where they're really going to get the lift because they're going to have better retention of great talent and happier, more fulfilled workers that are working for them. That is where they will get the lift, but it's hard to quantify.
Yeah, I think you hit it, and maybe it's a good point to end up on is a retention.
Yep.
If your team is stable, you're blessed.
Yep.
You really are, and you need to look internally at whatever magic you have that has made it that way. Whether it's technology, whether it's the creation of a culture, whether it's a particular leadership model. Heaven forbid it's some sort of weird cult.
Well,
Uh,
I hope not. Yeah.
but I'm just going out there. But really, there's a magic to companies that hire somebody when they're young and that person's still there 30, 40 years
Oh,
later
yeah.
because they want to be,
That's right. Yeah.
because they want to be. And the strength of that developed corporate knowledge is very powerful.
Well,
Uh,
I know for a fact that you have that. When I was meeting your team, people are like, I've been here decades. I was like, oh, it's amazing. Because it's an indication that what you're doing really matters. You know, the future of work is so incredibly important. We spend more than half our life working. So we should do it right. And so figuring out the future of work is incredibly important.
well, it's a time flow issue, and I think the old saying is the man that stands in a river never feels the same water twice. And
Hmm.
the reality of that is the future comes at you like a river.
Yeah.
So you have to stand in it and think through it and hopefully absorb some of what it does. But anyway, so I don't know how to end up this. This could go for days. This could go for days. Will you come over for dinner tonight?
Of
And
course, I'm a little far away, but normally, absolutely. Next time I'm in Dallas, you got it.
um, but no, I'm really grateful to you, Angela, for your time. I know how busy you are, how many people are trying to pull your strings, and I really am grateful to you for the time. I appreciate your thoughts very, very much. And I know our audience, which is ever expanding, we're in the top 3 or 4% now of all
It's
podcasts. So,
incredible.
that's really, really an audience who will be grateful for what you've shared with us today.
Well, your leadership on this is amazing. Thank you so much for having me. I loved joining, and I'm always available to join you, Frank.
Well, thank you, Angela. Take care.
Thanks.
If it's impacting the future of work, it's in the Future of Work podcast by allwork.space.